What is going on, guys? We're back with another video today, and we are doing another Tiermaker list video, and we're doing defenses. This one, I'm just going to say, is probably going to get a lot of hate because, once again, it is a very tough list to make because there's so many different variables. You might have a team that doesn't allow a lot of points, but they don't get turnovers or sacks, and there's going to be people complaining about that. Or a team that gets tons of turnovers but still gives up a ton of points because their offense sucks. You know, there's so many variables in this, so please take these with a grain of salt. And if you do enjoy this, maybe like the video and subscribe. I was about to say much likely appreciate it, but that's not English, and B, obviously I would appreciate it. You know, even if you dislike the video, please don't dislike the video. But I have the list as follows: elite, almost elite, good, average, bad, and then my favorite one that I added, instant touchdown. You can put that any way you want. There's going to be some guy that's, you know, it's going to be like the Buccaneers, and he's be like, hey, he didn't say which side was going to get the touchdown, did he? Pick six, baby. You know, but yeah, that's not, no. So let's get away. Let's just knock out the best defense in the league. Elite Chicago Bears, a ball-hawking team that can get after the quarterback and allowed the least amount of points in the entire league, considering they don't even have that potent of an offense. I know they like to play short ball, but even when you're wasting as much clock as you can, 17 points allowed a game is really freaking good. And then let's get rid of an instant touchdown team, the Bengals. I know their offense isn't great. Andy Dalton getting injured didn't help. Once again, sorry, I'm not able to watch every single team's games. Maybe the Bengals are actually an average defense, and, you know, once again, it's the offense making them look bad, or they just had a really bad stretch of games, and that really ruined the totals. But based off of what I've seen from them, and then looking at the actual end season stats, they are probably the worst team in the league for defense. We'll go with another bad defense. We're going to put the Chiefs at bad, though, because I think they did add a few guys, you know, Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu. They've added a couple of guys. They did lose Houston and D Ford, though, so I'm not really, you know, D Ford basically handed Tom Brady another Super Bowl, which is cool. Love to have that guy getting lucky Super Bowls on the years. It's fun. Let's go with another elite. We're going to put the Buffalo Bills at the elite spot, which is just an impressive defense. I've seen it firsthand with the Packers. That defense gave Rodgers troubles. Luckily for us, that offense is terrible. So, obviously, with the defense doing that well, even though their offense is really not good, I think the Saints are a tough one. Are they almost elite? Probably. They're good. Maybe by the end of this, they will move up to almost elite, but at one point, the Saints were, you know, an improved roster. I mean, they went from, 32 to, top 10 defense. I mean, that's just a really good turnaround. It tells you one draft is all it takes sometimes. The Ravens, I'm going to put them at almost elite. I know a lot of people would have debated them as, the best defense or right next to the Bears. They lost a lot. Not much they could have done about it, so, I mean, I'm not really going to fault them. I believe they did earn Earl Thomas, though, so I don't know. I think they're very close. They're probably going to be the number one almost elite defense. If I'm thinking about it, honestly, I think we may only have one more elite defense on this list, and obviously it's going to be an opinionated one. Once again, you do have to factor in the offensive success as well. I think the Chargers. The Chargers obviously have one of the most, if not the most, complete team in general. The Browns, this is a tough one to rank for me because they were not great last year. And then the big thing is they didn't necessarily gain a whole lot. But the big thing for me is the fact that they have a better offense. I think I'm going to put them right at average. And you can make a fair argument that they would be right next to the Chiefs. But I think the Chiefs have to be in the bad category. Now, a lot of people are going to say that the Niners are probably an almost elite team, but when you base it off of last year, I know they got Nick Bosa. They added a couple of names. I think they are quickly becoming, was I beatboxing? I know they're quickly becoming one of the better defenses on paper, but honestly, last year, they were actually kind of shockingly bad. You know, they didn't take the ball away well. They didn't sack, they didn't get a whole lot of sacks. They didn't give up a whole lot of yards, though, but they gave up a lot of points, so I don't know if, once again, that has anything to do with the offense. You know, the quarterback situation was very bad there. I think it probably would come down to the quarterback situation. Once again, this is that early video talking point of, don't blame me if I don't know the exact I don't know every situation of your team. On paper, I would guess the Niners were putting in a lot of bad situations on defense, but at the same time, on paper, they give up a lot of points, didn't take the ball away, all those things. So I think they're a good defense, and obviously they've become better with, of course, the additions in the offseason. Houston Texans, they're very close to elite. Going to put them here. I think they're probably a better defense than the Ravens, especially when you consider they're going to have a better offense as well, so that should help in theory. This is a tough one for me. The Rams, they took the ball away a lot. Their yardage was pretty damn average in the league, right around dead middle. The sack totals was decent, but honestly, with a guy like Donald, they had a pretty damn good defensive line. You would have expected more, because if you're scoring a lot, you're not going to be on the field as much. So how are you allowing so many points? Sorry, Rams. You're allowing too many points for a good offense. I mean, it's not like the Rams are scoring in 3 plays every time. The longer the drive, the better the defense. We're gonna go with the Giants, who have an average defense. It's hard to put Giants and Browns next to each other. They're a bad defense. They're a bad defense. Give up a lot of passing yards. They don't really take the ball away. Sack totals, we already knew one of their biggest needs is pass rusher, and they kind of addressed it, but it was a little later, so I don't know. I really don't like that out of them. Let's move on to the Lions now, who I think are a good defense. They added Trey Flowers. Who did they lose? Can't really think of anyone they lost, but Trey Flowers is a huge addition for them. They lost Ansah, but obviously when you get Trey Flowers, you didn't really lose Ansah. You gained a good player. They were actually surprisingly good. They were pretty much a top 10 defense last year. Of course, we're factoring this probably 70-30 last year's success to this year potential. Jaguars, who are definitely an almost elite team. Josh Allen's a huge pickup. The Jags really got lucky with that pick, man. The Jags really were not expected to get Josh Allen at all, and they lucked out with a very safe pick. I think that only makes their defense better. Nick Foles on offense should give them longer drives. So the Jags on paper should be a very good defense. Tampa Bay, who has a ton of potential, but a very bad offense. Really not even a bad offense, a bad quarterback. Are a bad team. They give up a lot of yards. They don't take the ball away. They don't get after the quarterback well. It's not a good statistical team, but once again, that offense is rough. Lots of interceptions. They could easily move up to good. They have that much potential on defense, but only time will tell. We're going to go with the Dolphins, who, believe it or not, are bad. The thing that makes them decent, just on the statistics category, is Xavier Howard, who everyone's like, oh, he's the best corner because he has the most picks. He just has a lot of picks, all right? He's a good corner. He really makes them look okay in the numbers category, but really they are a bad defense, giving up a lot of yards, not really sacking. Picks are nice and all, but sacks, I think, kind of determine how good a defense really is, because not only is it A, decent pass rush, but B, decent coverage. This Vikings defense, it took a bit of a step back, but it's still a very good team. They're definitely an almost elite defense. I think Everson Griffin, his absence definitely hindered them a bit. I think the Vikings did a good job in the draft. I don't think it really necessarily helped their... Who did they take? I think they took offensive line early. I don't think their defense really improved too much to the draft, but overall, it's definitely an elite defense. And then Steelers, believe it or not, they actually had a really good team on defense last year, even without Shazier. And honestly, Devin Bush, he could be a Shazier and then some. So I'm going to put the Steelers at almost elite as well. It puts me in a really bad spot for a couple of teams. I'm not sure if I have the Steelers up here where I'm going to put some other teams, but we're getting there. We're almost to the list. We're about halfway. Let's knock the Cowboys out. Once again, proof that a draft really does make a difference. Leighton Vander Esch has been huge for them. Linebacker has been so inconsistent for them. Jalen Smith, he's been, bouncing around from decent to good. Leighton Vander Esch was just a whole nother level. That front seven with him there is one of the better ones in the league. And then DBs, they've had a lot of really young guys that are starting to develop. Byron Jones, is he great? I mean, he 1 year he showed he was amazing, fell off a little, and then he's back to amazing. So if he can play amazing again, they're a good team. Safety's improving. They're definitely a good defense. Seattle's a tough one for me because, they weren't necessarily great last year. Once again, they kind of proved names aren't the only thing that matters, because on paper, the Seahawks should have been terrible on defense, but they actually did really well considering. But once again, they did get worse in the offseason, so they're going to be average. They're going to be average now. I think this is going to be finally the year where the Seahawks really, that Legion of Boom is basically gone. All it takes is one injury to Bobby Wagner, and they're an instant touchdown team, really. Indianapolis Colts, another team that proves that drafting is key. Going to put them right in between the Lions and the Niners. They're good, and I think they're only going to get better. Now we have Denver, who's going to be considered an average defense. considering they don't have a great offense. Their points allowed weren't bad. I think around 22 points, and they were very good in the sack and interception category. They gave up a lot of yards, though. So that bend, don't break defense is definitely a decent one. If Drew Lock can, I mean, not even just Drew Lock, but if Joe Flacco can do something, because they had a really good draft. They really did. So if they can utilize the offseason additions, they should go to it a good defense by the end of the year easily. I think, honestly, I don't know. I like Noah Fant, but I think if I was Denver, I probably would have went Devin Bush instead. I know they got a trade down. It was nice, but they needed a tight end, but I think Devin Bush would have been huge for that defense. If they would have got Devin Bush, it would have been hard for me not to put him in the good category. Now, the Jets, on paper, were one of the worst teams, bottom 5, bottom 10 defense. But with the additions of Mosley, the addition of Quinnen Williams, the addition of some great offensive players, I think it's going to put them at the average list. Once again, most of this has been 70-80% based on last year. But the Jets, I think, have moved into the average category with some of their additions in the offseason. If they could have added Anthony Barr as well, that would have been kind of clutch, but the money was kind of rough anyways. This one's another easy one. Oakland as an average defense. Losing Khalil Mack was huge, but they added a lot of defensive talent through the draft. I think they did turn around pretty quickly. I think they went from being an overall bad team to an average, maybe an above average team just in one offseason. Everyone was thinking it was going to be a long rebuilding process, like a 5-year process, but honestly, this thing could be like a 2-year rebuild process for them. Get that Madden cheese going. Tennessee, we're going to put them at a good defensive ranking. The points per game, they only gave up 19 points per game, and maybe that's a little bit to do with some of the games with Derrick Henry where they just pounded the rock so well with him. I can't really even tell if Derrick Henry's a good running back. He just had a couple of really good games, which made his average insane on the year. Yeah, they allowed very little points. Their yardage allowed was pretty damn low, and that's not a very good offense. So Titans are definitely a good defense. This one's a tough one for me. The Patriots, I think, are a good defense. Points per game were low. A lot of that will be attributed to a very good scheme on offense to put them in a great position to win every game. The thing that puts them in a good and not average for me is their clutchness in the playoffs. Completely locked down the Rams. The Patriots are one of the most clutch defenses when it comes to the postseason. Stephon Gilmore is an amazing cornerback. They did, I believe, have a ton of interceptions on the league year. Was it top 5, I think? Maybe top 5? They look like the best defense in football when in the Super Bowl. They really did. I know the Rams, weren't not too shabby themselves, but the Patriots just put on a show. I mean, that is one of the greatest defensive performances of all time in a Super Bowl. It has to be. Shout out to the Cardinals for a rebuild tomorrow. I want to put them in an instant touchdown, but their sack category was pretty decent. They added a new corner, but they lost Patrick Peterson for 6 games. He's been above average cornerback, of course, Patrick Peterson, but he definitely has taken a step back. Sometimes he's really good and sometimes not so good. Kind of reminds me of Byron Jones, but losing him does obviously hurt their team. The defensive backfield, if Patrick Peterson was there, would be one of their strong points. Instead, it's the defensive line, of course. Zach Allen, a new guy on the team. I don't know. I still think they're not a very good defense. They gave up a ton of points last season. Didn't really improve this season. I think really the thing that you have to look at is that they improved as an offense. How much is that going to help their defense? Really, it's more about the offensive additions than the defensive additions for me with the Cardinals. Byron was a good move for them. But is it going to be enough to make them a good defense? Probably not. I'd say with the offensive successes, though, they probably will move into an average come next season. I'd like to put the Redskins at bad, but I'm going to put them at average. The absolute definition of average. They're literally dead in the middle in the league. The thing is, they did lose Zach Brown. They signed Landon Collins. I mean, that's definitely one of their better safeties. But once again, how much of an improvement is that over HaHa? Not a whole lot. But I would say Landon is definitely the better player. But it's not that big of an improvement to pay him that kind of money. But with Sweat coming onto the team, I think it's probably an improvement from Preston. I'm struggling with that one because it's hard, because especially from a Packers fan standpoint. We'll get into that later. We'll probably do them last. Now this is one that I feel I'm kind of proud of, that I have enough insight to put them in good. Because honestly, the Eagles on paper were not a good team last year. But because I'm the smartest football fan in the world, I know the Eagles had a lot of injuries. They had a couple guys like Maddox move up. What's his name? Was it Rasul? Was it Rasul Douglas, I think his name is? They both moved up, and they were actually pretty decent. They actually have, a couple of questions now at cornerback. A guy like Maddox might move up that roster now, even with all the players coming back. The Eagles are definitely a good defense, even though their rankings would put them at the bottom 10 from last year. If Carson Wentz can stay healthy and actually get back to proving he's an above-average quarterback, they should easily move into a good, maybe even back to almost elite or elite status. They were one of the best defenses in the league a few seasons ago, and, injuries, both sides of the ball really kind of hindered them there. Now, here's a honestly rather easy team to rank. Of course, once again, we don't know what an offense is going to do for them because obviously they have Matt Ryan, they have Julio Jones, they added more wide receiver talent. They're a good team on offense. If they can get back to the truly elite selves, they're definitely going to move back up to average. But the Falcons were very bad last year on defense. And the biggest thing is, where are the new players? They didn't gain anyone. Their first address of the defense in the draft was in the 4th round. It was a decent corner in fairness, but they went with 2 offensive linemen. One was a reach at pick 31. The Falcons did nothing to improve that defense. And as much as their offense is good, and I honestly feel like the Falcons right now are building like the Packers, but they're 2 years behind. I really do. They honestly, the Falcons and Packers are so damn similar. I feel like the Falcons are doing exactly what we're doing, but they're a little behind, and they just have one better receiver, Like Julio's a great receiver. He is better than Devontae, but they're kind of in that similar boat. But the depth for the Falcons receiving core is a little bit better. I really don't know why the Falcons didn't trust defense. I don't know if they just don't have the money. Obviously, the Packers are going to be in that boat in a year or two, but I don't know. I just don't get why they wouldn't try to improve. Now we have the Panthers, another team that really didn't do a whole lot for their defense. They added some pass rush talent. I believe Julius Peppers did retire. It was last season, right? Honestly, I can't. Julius Peppers seems like he plays 1.5 seasons a year. So it's hard to tell sometimes. But the Panthers, they added Brian Burns in the draft. Great pick. Honestly, a little shocked. Am I shocked that he went to 16? I don't know. It seemed like the draft kind of went to cuck the Packers up to 12. And then after 12, everyone's like, all right, back to normal schedule. We lost so many good players just right before us. Bruce Irvin as well. They lost a few players on defense. They gained Eric Reed, though. So they definitely did a little bit more than the Falcons. They didn't do a whole lot, though. The Panthers, they were pretty average last year. I'm going to put them at a pretty average again this year. And now here for my favorite team, which will have zero bias, of course. Why would I? There's no reason for that. But, of course, the Green Bay Packers with those offseason moves, guys. Obviously, they have become an elite defense. No, they haven't. But I'll put them above the Colts. The Eagles, once again, I think the injuries, are they were key. So I think they're going to be back up to it. I think they'll probably be an almost elite defense again by next year. The Packers, I think, are right in the middle of the pack of defense. I would have ranked them as a top 10. Here, obviously, we're not because there's, what is this? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're the 13th ranked defense. Losing Nick Perry and Clay was a good thing. Those guys were ranked terribly. Nick Perry was so injury prone. So was Clay, really. But in the final year specifically, Nick Perry, there was no effort, man. It seemed like there was no effort. Kyler Fackrell came off the bench and doubled their sacks combined. I know, obviously, coming off the bench, it's wearing the defense. No. Kyler Fackrell did better than both of those two combined. That is a shocker. And, of course, in the offseason, we added so much depth to the defensive from the edge. We have Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. You're going to be hearing, the Smith brothers do it again. You're going to hear that probably throughout the year. Of course, defensive backfield, we got 20 times better. Josh Jones and Savage are going to be competing for a number 1 job. I think at one point you're going to see Josh Jones play a lot of inside linebacker because that's one of the biggest needs right now for this defense. If you take away, honestly, Blake Martinez and whoever the next middle linebacker is the biggest issue right now. Rashawn Gary is a depth player that could end up starting over Preston. Preston would be one of the guys that would come in for run support. If the teams needs to slow down. Obviously, right now, the Smiths are going to probably be the projected starters, but Rashawn Gary midseason if he actually does prove up to his potential. Could be the starter on the edge. I don't know really where you want to put him. Are they going to make him gain weight and play him on the inside? I don't know. It seems a little weird to me, but they have so much to work with. Mike Pettin should be very happy with the defense that we put together. We blew the entire cap. I mean, when you're talking about a team that wants to get better, the Packers exemplify that on the defense. There is no team that got better on defense more than the Packers. Now, not saying they're the best defense, and I'm not saying there wasn't teams that went from, potentially good up to almost elite, but there's no team. It's not even close. Let me know what you guys think of this list. I think we did a pretty good job. The Bengals, who really didn't do a whole lot on, in the offseason, I think they belong in that instant touchdown category. They really do. It's a little harsh because it's not even just do the Bengals belong in the instant touchdown. Do they belong as the only instant touchdown? Now, you could maybe argue the Giants and whatnot. I'm sorry, Bengals fans. I've been a little harsh today. Please don't hate me. It is what it is. It is what it is. You lost Perfect, who even though he was dirty, he was, it's more than just that. As much as it's dirty or whatnot, you could still rally around a guy that puts that much intensity in the way he plays. Even if you don't agree with some of the tactics, the tactics kind of prove how much he cares and how much he wants to win. So, losing a guy like that, whether you want to, call him dirty or not, that's big for the morale, I think. So, I think they are an instant touchdown. I think there maybe the Giants or the Buccaneers could, join them, but I think the Buccaneers did an okay job in the draft of at least addressing their defense. So, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could be, up into the average by next season. It really comes down to the offense. But anyways, I don't want to talk anymore. I've been talking for freaking too long. If you did enjoy, maybe subscribe and like the video. Follow me on Twitter at Jeromepkr. Maybe subscribe to the second channel, PKR Plays. If you have any more of these suggestions, let me know. Of course, at some point we will do a quarterback rankings. There's no doubt about it. So give me some patience on that one, and we'll get that out soon enough. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. But until next video, see ya!